I only comment on Canadian politics. I'm a Canadian citizen, but this story coming out of the UK is so crazy, and the parallels are so obvious between what's happening in Canada and what's happening in the UK that I had to comment on it. For those who aren't aware, the UK is currently spending about $3 billion with a B dollars a year on housing immigrants at hotels. That's about £8 million per day just in the year 2025, and this has been going on for a substantial period of time. Now, there was just an injunction in the UK as the Conservatives and Reform had argued that the taxpayer should not be housing these people, and it was the Epping Hotel that was hosting about 140 immigrants, and it was found that the government was not in the right to house them, that they weren't allowed to do so. Now, Labour under Keir Starmer, who is somewhat similar to Mark Carney, I would say, a far left guy, very woke, very ideologically captured. I think he hates Britain. His team decided to challenge the court ruling that said that the government was not allowed to spend this taxpayer money housing migrants at the Epping Hotel. The most shocking part was in their argument, the British government actually argued that immigrants arriving, these are also immigrants arriving illegally to the UK. Illegally arriving to the UK, it's mostly by these small boats through the channel that they arrive. These immigrants arriving to the UK deserve precedence over British citizens. I kid you not. This is what the UK government argued. Keir Starmer and the UK government said that the rights and privileges of people who show up illegally in the country of Britain, their rights supersede those of the UK citizens, the ones who are actually paying the $3 billion a year in tax dollars that are housing these people at a lot of 3- and 4-star hotels. And the judge agreed with them. I kid you not. In the UK right now, it's stated that the rights of newly arrived illegal immigrants trump those of British citizens. It's so shocking to me, but the more you think about it, you see what's happening in the Western world. We're seeing a lot of the same issues all over the place. Whether it's the UK, Canada, thank God Trump won in the States. It would have been the exact same there. Australia, you saw what happened when Biden was president. They say about 17 million people into the country in 4 years. The native populations, the populations who have been in all these Western countries for a long period of time, Germany, it's the same thing, are saying, no, we're having so many issues at home. We cannot afford right now to spend billions of taxpayer dollars housing immigrants. In many cases, it's similar to Canada, where immigrants are given major advantages. They're incentivized. Many companies are incentivized in these countries as well to hire foreign workers over whether it be Canadians, Brits, the UK. It's not an exaggeration to say that these governments are acting in a traitorous way towards their countries. They are literally benefiting people showing up illegally to their country over native-born citizens. It's happening in every Western country, which is why you see that this is coordinated. This is clearly coordinated. And then you look into the leadership, whether it be Starmer, whether it be Macron. These guys all have connections to the WF, to Davos. In Canada, obviously, Carney very heavily involved with both the WF and Davos, as well as Brookfield Asset Management. And what's so incredible is that I'm looking at the polling, and in country after country after country, right in Canada, it's 75% of the population saying we can't withstand any more immigration. We're traditionally a very pro-immigrant country. It's the same in all these other countries. It's upwards of 80% of the population saying we cannot withstand this, but the government continuing to allow millions of people to come in. It's really shocking how across the Western world you're seeing the same thing. These so-called democratic norms and the will of the people that is supposed to be represented through our democratic process being totally ignored by these governments that clearly are not representing the best interests of their citizenry. It's just obvious when you look at the policies. I mean, you're not going to find as overwhelming a consensus on nearly any issue as between 70 and 80% of the population saying we can't bring more immigrants in. And you see the same strategy in every single country as well. I've looked into these rallies, massive rallies in Australia and UK over the weekend, and the left always goes to you're a racist if you're against mass immigration. It's so ridiculous because people see right through it. No, you're not a racist. You're just saying that the primary responsibility of your government is to look after the population that has elected them. And there's study after study after study, whether it's healthcare, whether it's economics, whether it's the housing market, these sudden massive spikes, unprecedented spikes in immigration are hurting middle and lower class people in these countries across the Western world. Now, I know that for the elites, it's fantastic. Mark Carney, for example, in Canada, Brookfield Asset Management, where he worked for 10 years, and to be frank, he's still working on behalf of Brookfield Asset Management, despite the fact that he's our prime minister. They own $37 billion worth of real estate in Canada. So for them, it's absolutely fantastic. Basic supply and demand. You flood the country with immigrants, and their $37 billion in assets, which has doubled since Trudeau was elected in 2015 in Canada, continues to go up. You flood the supply, it gets harder and harder for middle and lower class people in these countries. The top 0.01% get richer and richer and richer. And all you have to do to shut people up from complaining is call them racist and xenophobic and implement two-tiered policing, where if you're in all these countries, if you're protesting government-sponsored stuff like pro-Palestine, you're allowed to have carte blanche to roll fake body bags out on the street. But if you go out and say that I want sovereignty, which is a pillar of Western civilization, sovereignty and free speech, which are under attack in every single one of these countries, you get branded a far-right racist. They all use the same playbook, but I think the good piece of news is that this is getting tired and played out, and I think it's good that they have to come out of the shadows and actually argue what it is they truly believe. Now we truly know. The UK government, and I saw a representative from the UK, from the Labour Party, actually on TV, she actually said that she agreed. Their lawyer seriously is arguing that illegal immigrants to Britain, their rights supersede the British citizens. So at least they're out of the shadows. We all know exactly how these people actually feel about us. As shocking as it is, they say sunlight's the best disinfectant. I think in this case, it's absolutely right. Now, Brits know in the UK that their government sees illegal immigrants' rights as superseding theirs. In Canada, we're allowing 1.5 million people into the country a year, at the same time as we're only starting 220,000 houses a year. I'm no genius, but the math isn't mathing for me, particularly in a country where we have a housing crisis since Trudeau was elected in 2015. Like a rocket upwards, both rental and housing prices. And they're saying 1.5 million people come in, only 220,000 new housing starts. That tells the entire story in terms of what the elitists think of you. They think the peasant should shut up, stop complaining, and just listen to Mark Carney and his buddies at the WF in Davos. Who cares if you can't afford to feed your kids? Who cares if you can't afford rent? You're a racist. I think that people are really getting sick of this message. I know that people are getting sick of this message. I'm hosting a rally Saturday, September 13th for Canadian sovereignty, for Canadian free speech, noon, Parliament Hill. Message me if you're interested in attending. We have to hit the streets, and I know Canada can do the same thing as they're doing in the UK and Australia. I know how many Canadian patriots are out there. If you're interested in supporting the cause, join. You'll help me mold this movement. So exciting getting it off the ground. Please like, share. If you're on TikTok, make sure you're following me on YouTube, because the Canadian government doesn't like dissidents. youtube.com/@FightForCanada. Let's go. Canadian patriots are taking this country back.